an amazing grand finale planned for all of you. I see a few people trickling in to the Zoom room. If you look at the description as we are going live, in the streaming description, you'll see the links for the Zoom. If you have enjoyed the last 2 days, more than likely you're taking some action. You're not just listening to theory. But I'm excited for it, Josh. We've got a lot of things packed. So welcome, welcome to day three of this workshop, this agency growth plan workshop we're doing with Josh Nelson. We just started recording. We're streaming now. Josh, give us a quick rundown as people are trickling in, and I'm seeing some comments of people checking in from certain cities. It's a great way to network. How you feeling, Josh?
I'm feeling great. Really, really enjoyed the last 2 days. Excited for today because this is really where the rubber meets the road. And so hopefully everybody's here to work.
Absolutely. If you are just now checking in, you might have seen in the Zoom room that the chat is intentionally turned off. But our team and Jordan, they put a link there. You can go to the Facebook page. I would like to have everyone type in what city and state you're checking in from. I do this often, Josh, with all of our live stream events now, and what's come of it is lunch pop-up groups. Like we've seen
Mm,
pop-up groups come out of these streamings where
that's
people are like, hey, I met this other person at a 3-day workshop or a 5-day challenge or a master class because you guys were streaming and I put my name down and I said I'm from Houston, Texas or Fort Lauderdale or wherever, and they were connecting with fellow high levelers and they end up meeting together in person, which is like a pretty cool experience. So make sure you put the city and state down of where you're from. If you're international, connect with some, European folks, African folks, Middle Eastern folks. We have a lot of people in Australia now, in Asian countries as well. So put down the country you're checking in from if you're international. But Josh, give us a quick 30-second synopsis of day one and
mm-hmm.
one of day two. And I know
Yep.
today is going to kind of bring it all together where
Yeah.
it's going to be jam-packed with a lot of action.
No doubt. So day one was setting the goals and targets for 2025, right? If you don't know where you're going, you're going to get somewhere, but it's probably not where you want to be. So we spent some time getting really clear where do we want to be at the end of the year? How does that break down by quarter? How does that break down by month? And we called our shot. I'm going to have this many clients with this amount of recurring revenue. That was the main focus of day one. Day two, yesterday, we made sure we had the right model, right? What are we selling? How are we charging for it? What market are we going after? What's our offer? What's our program package look like? And then how are we going to sell this? How are we going to present this in order to convert opportunities into sales, which has laid the foundation for what we're going to do today, which I'm really excited about.
Yes. So the big question today is how do I get these prospects to raise their hand? I know that was a question everyone had yesterday and day before, and we highlighted the structure of what it takes once they have said yes in the grand scheme of things. But Josh, I want you to talk to the entrepreneurs that are just starting out. They don't have any clients just yet. Let's focus on that 0 to 3 lane of maybe max 3 clients. And because I know there's a lot of seasoned veterans in this call, and we're not sitting here talking about how to scale from, 500,000 a month to 2 million a month or anything like that. That takes more than a workshop.
Mm.
So if we could address that beginner, the entrepreneur that's just exiting that 9 to 5, I think we'll be very fruitful with this. So let's get right into it. I think you should be able to share your screen now. And let's get started because we have got a lot of things to cover, and I want to do a bigger Q&A today as well, if possible.
No doubt. Absolutely. Let me share the screen, make sure I've got the right one, and we're going to get right into it. And if you're pumped, just type pumped in the comments. You guys are here live. Thanks for being here. Let me know if you're pumped and you're ready to rock and roll, and we'll hit the ground running. All right. So day three, again, is going to be building your actual growth plan, right? It's the actual things we're going to be doing daily, weekly, and monthly to hit the goals and the targets that we've set for ourselves. So we're going to build your sales and marketing plan for 2025. I have, based on Paulson's request and the feedback I've seen in the community, tried to bring it down to that starting level. So we're going to spend a lot more time on getting your first handful of clients, then some of the key strategies I usually talk about, which are really more about positioning and client attraction. There's a place for that, but let's focus on the daily activities that you can start doing right now to fill your funnel and hit those targets. Just give me a yes if that sounds good for you as you're watching, wherever you happen to be watching, in the comments. Promo. All right, awesome. So rules of engagement, same rules that we've been playing by. Be here now, turn off the other tabs, participate, right? Today's going to be a lot of deep understanding, here's what you should be doing in order to fill the calendar, but there's going to be some work. There's going to be some exercises. So just type participant if you're willing to be a participant, an active participant on today's session, and not just passively listening, passively kind of learning what you get from the day. And I do want to remind you that what I'm sharing is based on my experience. This is how we grew our agency to 7 figures, and I do over $7 million per year. And we've got 137 other agencies that have implemented pretty much this exact model, this exact marketing strategy, and grown to 7 figures and multiple 7 figures. So, you can count on the fact that what you're hearing here, it's not theory, it's not fluff, it's not easy. And Paulson, has brought that up many times. It's not like just presto bingo, we press a button and now you're running a really successful agency. There's a lot of actual hard work and a lot of action that goes into it. I don't know about you, I'd rather be taking action based on proven outcomes than just theory or just some hype that makes you feel excited, but you can't actually sink your teeth into. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we do have your resources. I've been updating this each day. So if you download it on day one, you probably want to download the latest version at highlevel.com/Josh Nelson resources. I'm sure it's in the chat. I've added a couple extra things in there for you guys as well. But you're going to want to have this workbook and kind of reference what we did on the first 2 days as well. So going back to day one, we're not going to do this now, but ideally, if you plugged in on day one, the main thing we did was we got clear on where we want to be by the end of the year. We got clear on how many clients we want to have, how much recurring revenue we want. We put that into the sales retention tracking sheet. If you didn't do it, go back and watch day one again. But if you did, I'd like to know, what's that number for you at the end of the year? What's the MRR target? I remember some of you guys were saying 90 to 100. Others of you were saying 15 or 20. It's fine. Wherever you want to end up by the end of the year, the clarity is important. Publicly calling your shot, putting it into the chat right now, is important because it's forced accountability. So if a couple of you guys could just drop in to the chat for me what that number is for you. Again, I need participation in order to make sure this is going to be useful. All right, Sabrina wants to get to 66K. Jake mapped his out by quarter. Charlie wants to get to 93. Love that number. That puts you over 7 figures. Denise wants to get to 50K. Amazing. Great work, everybody. We want to know that number. 83K for Patrick. 83K for Jake. Fantastic. I love these bigger numbers too. Love the small numbers. We want to help you guys all throughout the process. And so we put this into the goal setting mechanism where we can figure out, okay, if that's the goal, in the case of Gary Swain, I want to get to 59K. That broke down how many clients we need every month. But the most important KPI was how many strategy sessions are you going to need, how many sales appointments, how many demo calls, whatever you want to call it, on a monthly basis to bring that into reality. And so next thing I want you guys to drop into the comments, because you need clarity on this. This is what we're going to reverse engineer to, is how many strategy sessions is it going to require? Let me know the number that the worksheet helped you figure out. It's just based on the number of clients, your average close ratio, and a simple formula will tell you, well, if you want 7 new clients a month and you're closing at 20%, this is how many strategy sessions you would need theoretically to make that a reality. So drop that into the comments for me now. How many strategy sessions are we building towards?
Yeah, one thing I'll add here is if you're starting out and you haven't had any sales calls yet, it's going to be kind of difficult
Yeah.
to figure out what sort of close ratio percent.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that said, if you have no idea and you're like, you know what, I'd be guessing, that's cool, Paulson. I would say a good target to shoot for is 15, right? Let's get at least 15 sales appointments on a monthly basis. The more the merrier, right? But I think that's a healthy target because if you can close it even 10%, you're getting a client a month. If you can close it 20%, you're getting 3 clients a month. So 15, I want you guys all to write that number in. The minimum target I want you all to shoot for, type 1, 5, 15, and make it like emblazon that in your mind. Because when I look at the agencies in high level and in the community that I've worked with in the past, the ones that stagnate, the ones that don't get momentum, aren't getting enough strategy sessions. They aren't getting enough sales calls. They're not getting enough at bats. And so I'm like, how many appointments did you have last month? And they're like 2 or none, right? And they think they're running an agency. Listen, the name of the game in your agency from a sales and marketing perspective is that you're having appointments with prospects. You're making offers on a consistent basis. And I know Paulson agrees with this. I know this is kind of, especially early on, has to be the main thing you focus on. So you guys all put that number 15 in the comments. I love to see the comments blowing up. Okay, good. So if we're looking for 5 new clients per month, if you get 16 strategy sessions, you're going to increase your closing rate to 30%, and you're charging at least at $13.50 a month. That puts you on pace to grow to 7 figures, assuming you're retaining your clients at a high level. So that's why that is the target. And so what we're looking for is to put people into our consultative sales process, right? Where they raise their hand, they schedule in, and we take them through the sales process. If you missed yesterday's session, I walked you through our entire sales process, how to walk through that. So definitely go back and reference that if you don't have it. But today what we're going to talk about is the growth system, which are the strategies we're going to put in place, the things we want to be doing daily, the things we want to be doing monthly, the things that we want to do quarterly to get to those 15 strategy sessions every single month. But before we do that, I want to talk about the strategies and techniques that work best for scheduling appointments and for growing your agency, whether at the early stages or even when you're more advanced. I mean, you guys are at 7 figures, looking to go to multiple 7 figures. So at the very base is cold outreach, right? And none of us like the idea of cold outreach or spamming or DMing, but the reality is you have to get a list of prospects. You have to introduce yourself to them, either through email or through social messenger or through the phone, and you have to start to see if there's an interest, see if you can get their attention, see if you can get them interested in what you can bring to the table. And so that's where you always are going to start. And it's different for everybody, but I'm going to talk about the cold outreach formula today because I think that's where most of you guys need the most help. You need, like, here's a very specific play that I can run day in and day out to get those appointments and to get those sales. Type cold in the comments if that would be a good thing for us to focus on today. If we could go a little bit deeper on that than some of the higher level techniques. So that's the foundation. It's cold outreach. It's your brute effort, reaching out to new prospects and getting attention. I will say I'm not an advocate for just getting a million emails and sending a million messages and just garbage spamming, right? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about cold prospecting, right? We're actually selecting the right prospects. We're doing a little bit of research. We're reaching out to them in an intentional, customized way. And when you do it like that, it takes a little bit more work, but the communication gets through and you're gonna get the attention of the right types of people. So that's cold. That's the bottom of the foundation. Now, up from there is inbound marketing. And that's where people start to discover you, right? Because you're putting out good content on YouTube, on podcasts, maybe content that you put in place. You have people start to come into your world. What I found is a lot of us like the idea of inbound marketing, but the reality is if you're creating content in a vacuum, let's just say you start to do webinars, you start to put videos out on Instagram and on YouTube, but you have no one that's looking at it, you have no attention, your inbound marketing doesn't lead to much. And so that's why this is like a 1-2 combination. If you've got a list of the prospects that you're going to be connecting with, and then you start putting out valuable content on a consistent basis, well, now when you create that content, you can email it out. And there's actually going to be distribution. There's going to be people that can see it and get value from it and lean in to potentially doing business with you. So we'll talk a little bit about inbound marketing. From there, there's marketed lead generation, right? Which is actually running your own Google ads, running your own Facebook ads, setting up retargeting. And if you've got some money to invest, I know for those of you that are earlier, we're going to focus down here on cold outreach, but eventually you want to be eating your own dog food. If you're selling digital marketing services, you should be applying those same strategies to yourself. And what's great is if you're doing cold outreach and you're doing inbound marketing, you start to do some of your own marketed lead generation, you're not hitting a completely cold audience, right? Your marketed lead generation is hitting most of the people that are either on your list or that were exposed to your value through retargeting. And so it can be very, very effective. Even in a micro niche like plumbing or dentistry or roofing, you can run Facebook ads, you can do Google ads, and actually get appointments on a consistent basis. These strategies work. Now, up from there, kind of on the hierarchy of how to land clients, is associations and speaking. And again, this is a little bit more advanced, Paulson, but eventually, if you want clients to come to you pre-positioned to buy, and you want them to come to you and be willing to pay a premium rate, then you need to position yourself as the expert, as the authority in that space. And really, there's two things that will make you the expert. Number one is you're the published offer, right? Number one is the published offer. Number two is that you're speaking at the front of the stage, or you're running the workshop, or you're running the webinar. That makes you an expert. And so one of the best things we see our top agencies do is they join the National Association of their industry and they get involved. They find out when their live events are happening. They show up live. They have a booth. They look for opportunities to speak and to present. And that's an extremely powerful play. I bring this up because I really think that these are strategies that stack on themselves. But I've also found a lot of agency owners that just don't resonate with cold outreach. They don't like to do it. It doesn't match with their personality style. But if they understand how to get into live events and do networking, that just comes naturally to them. And so for some of you, maybe it's up here where you're going to spend most of your time networking, getting out to live events, looking for opportunities to speak and to add value. And then at the very top of the hierarchy is joint ventures. Finding people that already have relationships with the clients you want to work with and getting them to introduce you and getting them to plug you in to their client base. I've found you're literally just one joint venture away from a seven-figure agency, right? And there's been many members that I've worked with in seven-figure agency that have landed that one great joint venture and it blew up their business. Now, you can't start and say, hey, I'm going to go after the big coach or the big consultant or the big software provider in my industry and expect that to happen. Like, you earn those opportunities over time. And really what's interesting is if you're putting out good content through inbound marketing, you're marketing yourself so people are seeing your case studies, they're seeing your values, they're seeing your lead magnets, and you start to plug in at the associations and you're present and you're there adding value and potentially speaking. That's where these joint venture opportunities come from, because they start to see you in the industry, they start to see your proven value, and they reach out to you and they're like, hey, you know what? I'd like to see how you can help my group. I'd like to see how you can come add value. And this is where you get 10x, outcomes and growth within your agency. And so I wanted to walk you through this hierarchy. I'm going to break this down into the growth system for you, but you should be thinking about how you can stack these strategies so you're not reliant just on cold outreach, right? Cold outreach is a great place to start. It's foundational to what you're going to do ongoing. But if all you do is send emails and DM people and you never build any level of authority, you're going to be working the hardest angle. You're going to be working extremely hard for every at-bat that you get. So when we look at this growth system, I'm going to break this down for you daily, monthly, quarterly, take those strategies and make them very specific and tactical. And then we're going to put this onto a calendar. We're going to time block, and we're going to get clear on those activities you're going to commit to this year to get those 15 strategy sessions per month to hit those targets. But daily, you should be doing one of these three things. Ideally, all three, but some of us aren't ready for all three. Daily, at a minimum, you should be doing cold outreach. And so I'm going to spend the lion's share of the time today really walking you through how to get the list, what types of messages to send, how to get the attention of prospects that have no idea who you are. Now, if you've got some budget as well, you should also be running ads, right? You should be running Google ads for people looking for your services, and you should be running laser-targeted Facebook ads. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that today, but that should be part of what's happening. You're getting impressions every single day. And then from there, you should also be putting out content. And this is definitely a more advanced strategy, but ideally, your cold outreach is connecting with people on Facebook, connecting with people on LinkedIn. And that's the start of the relationship. The way you nurture the relationship is by putting out valuable content in short form videos and webinars and things like that. And every day you're dropping something new on your social profiles so that group sees you. Again, we're going to get into the details here, but just type daily if that's clear. Like, there's daily activities that you need to be doing if you're going to get enough appointments to hit the sales targets that you're after. Awesome. Okay, so let's get into cold outreach. This wasn't initially going to be part of what I was going to cover, but again, based on what Paulson suggested and kind of what I'm seeing in the feedback on the chat, I think this is important, and so I want to spend some time here. When it comes to cold outreach, there's really three things we have to solve for. Number one is we've got to get the list, right? You can't start to like prospect people in a vacuum, right? We've got to get a list. From there, we've got to figure out what the message is. Like, what will we say when we reach out? What's the message? And then what's the delivery mechanism to get that in their inbox, to get that in their social box, to get their attention? And so when it comes to the list, there's three places I suggest for the list. First and foremost would be the association. So if a couple of you guys typed in yesterday the niche that you're going to focus on, it was like tree services or it was med spas. There's an association that exists that has those companies in them. And oftentimes you can join that association as an affiliate or as a strategic partner. And when you join, you have to pay for that. But when you join, they're going to give you access typically to the names of the members, right? And you might have to use some fancy tools to get the email addresses and links to the social profiles. But to me, that's your best list because they're paying to be part of the association. They're an active business. They invest in continuing education. And while you're going to be able to prospect to a lot of other people through the association, you're able to draft on affinity. So just as an example, if I were to join the National Plumbing Association and I pay the fee, and now I'm a member of the National Plumbing Association, and they give me a list of their 5,000 active members, I now can reach out to those 5,000 prospects and say, hey, we're new members of the National Plumbing Association. I wanted to reach out, introduce myself, connect with you a little bit, see if there's any problems I can help you with. And that's a much more received message than you just showing up blind in their social profiles or in their emails. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's the association. There's lots of ways to buy lists. I know, Paulson, is there a new way that you can actually get list data through the prospecting tool in High Level?
Yeah. So if you're starting out, I would say the prospecting tool is probably where you should start at a small scale. There's also like two different plans. I believe you can do like an upgraded plan and invest into it, and it allows you to get more data. That alone should get you to 15 strategies, in my opinion, and it's focused local. And one thing I will warn everyone about is, when I had my agency, we were in the philosophy of mass marketing, right? And Josh said he didn't like that. And I agree with him. And the quality of clients that we received, even with those efforts, they don't last a lot. They don't last long, right? They're kind of fidgety in a sense. So even if you can land clients with cold list, beware in what you're actually doing, right? In the market, the world of buying a list and uploading and blasting, like that industry on its own could be something that's not easy to navigate because I've bought bad lists before. Somebody, back in the day with my dental agency, I had a gentleman sell me a list of like 50,000 dental residents that graduated like 2 years later. So by the time it was like to 2014 or 2015, they would have been a functioning doctor, right? So then you're making this assumption 4 years after they were part of this medical program that they would be a doctor, and you're blasting like 50,000 people, and half of them got kicked out of the med school, right? Half of them went to become a practitioner at another clinic. Most of them didn't even own their own businesses, right? So, paid a lot of money for a list like that, thousands of dollars. So like I've been burnt before, so I want you to be aware of that industry. It's kind of like the ugly side of marketing in a way, to be
Yeah.
frank. So if
Yeah.
you're starting out, the best thing to do is to get into the prospecting tool that High Level has. It's built into the system. There's no randomness there. It's local businesses. I personally think you can get to at least a couple of clients just using that.
Love that. I would take that suggestion, guys. Start there. For those of you that are a little more advanced, join the association. If you're investing in data, like Paulson said, don't buy the Fiverr list that's $5 for 10,000 because that's junk, right? That's gonna ruin your sending reputation. It's not gonna get anywhere. My preferred source is there's a tool called Coldlytics where they'll manually research the companies and give you the owner's name and their direct email address. And the quality of your data will really dictate the quality of your outcomes, right? So make sure you've got a really good list. Do not recommend scraping, like D7 Lead Finder, those types of tools. They've been used so many times, and the data is kind of not great. I wouldn't recommend that. So that's the list. The next thing you have to solve for is now I've got this list of prospects. What's my message, right? What am I going to say? How am I going to get their attention? And we've run a number of plays throughout the years. All of them work. It depends upon your level of expertise and kind of what you've got going on. I'm going to walk you guys through the best case study example because I think that's really the cleanest, right? Because you can say, hey, I recently got this client, this result, and love to show you how we did it. But the other one that really was the foundation of plumbing and HVAC SEO was one in your area. We were basically reaching out to all of the prospects in the city, Orlando, Tampa, Miami. And look, I'm reaching out to all of the top plumbing companies in Tampa this month. We're looking to just work with one to help generate this outcome. Let me know if that's you. The beauty of that strategy is it creates urgency and pressure. It's like, oh, wait, it's going to go to one of these guys. And if I believe that you're good, I want it to be me, right? And so when you do that right, it can work really well, really well. If you don't have case studies, the other strategy that works really well is the value video, which you could either actually record a video in advance or say, hey, you know what? I was looking at your online presence, or I was looking at your website. I was looking at the fact that you don't have chat, and I noticed something that I think needs to be improved. I recorded a video. I'd like to send it over to you. And you're just looking for someone to reply back and say, sure, send it over. Now you know it's a real person. You know they have some level of interest. Jump on Loom, record the video, explain the thing, and then ask for an appointment. That approach works really, really well. There's a million different cold outreach approaches and strategies. I'm going to give you guys the campaign we use for the best outreach. And if we want to talk more about value video, recognizing most of you might not have a case study today, we can walk through that as well. And then there's delivery mechanism. So that's how it is we're going to get that message received, right? And there's not just email. I want to make this clear. This isn't a spam approach. We're picking a finite list of prospects. We're not hitting them all at once. We're customizing the message. And we're not just going to email, right? We're going to email. We're going to try and connect with them on social, which is Facebook and LinkedIn, maybe Instagram, and the phone, right? And so you want to make sure you're thinking multi-channel and not just email. If you're going to do it that way, you can use high level. Like if you're going to do it clean and you're going to do it right and you're going to, go step by step with it, you can do this in high level in a sub account within your master account. You can even do it in the main account. If you're going to try and send thousands of emails at once, probably want to set up a more cold outreach platform like Instantly or Woodpecker. Correct me if you have different opinion on that, Paulson.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan of setting up like your own independent server and everything if you're gonna do
Yeah.
mass email, and I would bring in an expert to kind of set all that up for you. Like you'll burn your hands if you touch it too close to the
Yeah.
fire. That's one of those things in the world of marketing.
Mhm.
One thing I'll add here, Josh, that has been really popular with our 5-day challenge as well as our mastermind events is a lot of high levelers love doing audits, right?
Mhm.
So if you don't have a value video just yet, or maybe even a case study just yet, the prospecting tool allows you to download an audit that tells the business owner, hey, here are the things that I have set in place online from a reputation standpoint, reviews, web chat, speed, all those different things. If you can think about like the old SEM Rush audits, but a newer version of that is probably what I would suggest taking a look at and just having that open. Hey, Josh, I know you're a business owner here in Miami. You have a plumbing business. I saw your business come up in our system as a potential candidate for us to work with. Here's what I've already done, and I know we don't know each other, but I just wanted to just introduce myself and provide this report to you, this audit to you that showcases the overall health of your online reputation. And that is a great foot in the door handshake, in my opinion. If you
Yeah.
have no assets built that it takes less than 10 seconds to print one of those out inside of high level PDF format. You can send an email, you can walk in, shake hands, and give it to somebody if you want to as well. We've seen that become pretty viral and popular as part of the 5 Day Challenge and the Mastermind, too.
I love that. So, and that a couple of people are asking what tool that's built into high level and the prospecting tool. It'll
Yeah,
run a little audit, give you some things you can point to.
yeah,
And you could either use the audit as the thing to get their attention, or hey, I recorded a video, and that's just you
yeah.
basically pulling up the audit, and it's 3 minutes. Look, here's the issue. Here's why, here's why it's not performing. Would love to jump on a call and really show you how we can solve this. That's kind of what you do with your value video using an audit tool like that. So, also, Paulson, that's a great suggestion.
Yeah. People are missing the human connection, right? Like we don't if I'm a business owner, I'm getting a cold message from hundreds and hundreds of people. Hey, I'll bring you 30 appointments in the next 30 days to give you $30,000. And it's just like, it's not genuine. It doesn't feel good even as a recipient of a business. Like I rather talk to a person, shake hands, know that they're real. Like it's just one of those human connections that we're missing in 2024. I feel like we're gonna go back to the old route, the old route, the old fundamentals of marketing again.
100%. If it's obvious that what you're sending is like being sent to a lot of people at the same time, it's going to be immediately discarded, right? So the more you can customize it and invest a little bit of energy, the higher probability you're going to get a response, you're going to get engagement on what it is that you're doing with your outreach. So we talked about the list, right? We talked about you can buy the list, borrow the list, join the association, scrape it. If you're just getting started, use the prospect tool built directly into high level. That's a wonderful place to start, right? You can search a city, you can search your niche, you can get a list of prospects and chip away little by little, which is a great, great option. So I talked about this briefly. I do have a visual for it. So I want to make sure you guys are thinking multi-touch, you're thinking multi-channel, and you're thinking quality and quantity. Right? You can't just send one of these and be like, yeah, got the perfect prospect. You did a great outreach, but you did one, right? There's got to be enough volume behind this so that the numbers work in your benefit. So multi-channel. Again, I just want to hammer you guys on this. If you're just sending emails, that's as great as high-level deliverability is. Emails go to spam. People don't respond to emails in a lot of cases. It's like the lowest response channel that you have. Be sure you're also connecting on social media with these people because that's a backdoor channel, right? Once they've accepted you as a friend on Facebook or they've connected with you on LinkedIn, you can send them a message. Don't be the person sliding in their DMs annoyingly, but reach out congruent with the research that you've done, the message that you sent, maybe the value video that you created, in addition to good old school, pick up the phone and make a call, right? You combine those touches, what you'll find is they'll get a voicemail from you, they'll ignore the email, but maybe they'll see that personal message and be like, hey, you know what? Obviously, this person's trying to get my attention and respond. Where if you just did one channel, you're not going to break through in the same way. The other thing you want to do is you want to be going multi-touch, right? Cold outreach, connecting with new prospects in today's market doesn't happen with a single shot, right? It's not one personal message. It's not one phone call. You're probably going to need to touch your prospects at least 10 times in a variety of different ways. I'm going to share some examples, but please don't just send, hey, bumping this, what's going on? Just wanted to circle back. Like, be intentional with those 10 touches. Start to add value in advance. There's this law of reciprocity. If you give something to someone of value in advance, they feel the necessity to reciprocate, right? So be sure that you're actually adding value and tapping into the law of reciprocity with those touches. The other thing that if you do this right is you can't just rapid fire this and put it out shot fire. you need to be dropping the prospects that you're reaching out to onto a pipeline in high level and move them through the steps. Touch 1, touch 2, and then when they respond, over here, scheduled appointment. Like, work this through an assembly system. Otherwise, it will get lost. It won't happen for you. Put it onto a pipeline and then leverage some automation. The beauty of high level with the workflow builder and all of the other amazing things that they've built is you can reach out to someone when they engage with you. You can use automations when they click certain links and they do certain things to move them to a different level of priority in your pipeline. And so you want to make sure you're using that to your advantage. And then when it comes to quality and quantity, I'm going to say, make sure your outreach, you've got the actual owner's name, right? Just reaching out blind isn't going to do the trick. Make sure you got their direct email address. info@bobsplumbing.com is not going anywhere, right? bobsplumbing@yahoo.com probably is, right? So make sure you got the direct email address of the owner, and then use custom values, right? What's cool is inside high level, we've got the ability to custom value certain keywords, to custom value a first line that you might want to put into an email message, to custom value how many reviews they have. So you can get creative with how you leverage custom values to make your messaging even more specific and customized while not doing it manually, one message potentially at a time. Anything you want to add on this, Paulson? Any thoughts here?
Yeah. One thing I'll add here is I want to invite all of you to expand your mindset of your knowledge base. What I mean by that is, as marketers, we have elevated knowledge about marketing strategy. Like, even the brand new person that just took one course is probably going to know a little bit more about marketing than the average business owner. Now, what can you do with that? It's simple. Give away the farm. Right? When I think about the biggest brands, the biggest personalities, the biggest, folks that are in marketing, the ones that really succeed are the ones that give away the farm. What I mean by that is, give away the full strategy. Tell them, here's what I would do. Guess what? They don't have time to go implement it. You become the first person on their mind because you're coming in with your content value video and you're basically saying, here's what I would do. Imagine if you had a video that opens up the complete marketing strategy and say, here are the Facebook ads that I would run. Here are my SEO strategies. Here's what I would do social media. And you don't have to pay me a single dime. I just want to give this to you if you want to implement it for yourself. I promise you, in 2025, what will move the needle is going back to the old school way of marketing and giving away the farm. Mark my words. I promise you, you will become an authority instantly if you showcased your actual strategy. We have this mindset as marketers to kind of like protect our IP. It's like a weird, like, false wall in my mind because Josh knows more about SEO than anybody else. But if I go to somebody else like Monik, he's going to say, okay, I know just as much about SEO than Josh, right? Like, and some of you may feel that way, that way about software. And I can tell you, man, I think I know a little bit about software. So guess what? The information is not actually IP and it's not protected. It's your willingness to give that away. So I want to invite that kind of a mindset to everyone here. Give away the farm. Type in the chat if you're resonating with me. Type in the chat, give away the farm if you're resonating with me.
Love that. So true. Give value, tap into reciprocity. If what you're saying is common knowledge and they've heard it a dozen times, it's probably not that interesting to them. But if you're saying something that's like, hey, that's a novel concept, that's a new idea, and the way you get those new ideas is by education. Exactly what Paulson said. Be on the high level trainings. Look at the videos that they're rolling out. Look at the new trends that are happening. The more you can just translate that to your niche. Hey, check it out. Here's what's happening with Voice AI. This is how you can use this in your company. Would you like me to set up a demo for you? Those types of things are going to catch attention more than just a blanketed message that you're sending to everybody. So again, a million ways we can run the message. I talked about the one in your city approach. Value video combined with the prospecting tool audit, I think would be a great play. Literally just picking a prospect, running the audit, or sending a message initially, hey, I'm going to run this report. I found some opportunities for improvement. Would you like me to send it over? And then if they don't respond, jump on Loom, record a quick video. Hey, like real quick, don't overdo it. Hey, I was looking at your website. I saw these things. Here's a couple of opportunities. Here's the audit. Let me know, if this makes sense to you. If you're interested, let's jump on a quick call. I'll show you how to solve this. If you spend a little bit of time like that with every single prospect and made a custom video, that's going to be better than hundreds of spam emails that don't go anywhere. Can you handle an additional X this month? And then what I included in the resources for you guys is this one case study approach. And so there's a Google Doc. Again, this is in the resources file that we provided for you guys. I just went ahead and added it in. But if you've got a good client case study, client that you generate good results for, and ideally this should be what you're trying to do for every client, right? You want to knock it out of the park for the client. You want to be able to show this is where they were, this is where they are today, this was the strategy that we implemented. It's gonna stand out more than you just blindly reaching out to people. So I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because I know not all of you have case studies, but if you do, this will walk you through a great way to make that a short message that you can send via email, you can send via personal message, and get the attention of your prospects. And so an amazing example of this cold outreach process in the real world is Danny Barrera from Concrete Marketing Crew. Danny grew from like 3 clients at generalist agency, decided he was going to work with decorative concrete contractors. His main play with a lot of you guys was cold outreach. Right? He didn't have clients. He didn't have authority. He didn't have published books. It was like, get the list of prospects, reach out, make connections, using multi-channel, right? Using backdoor messaging and videos and backdoor messaging, grew to over $2.5 million in annualized revenue, continuing to crush it. And so just a good example of this can happen in the real world. Any questions on cold outreach before we go to the next piece here, Paulson?
I think we're good, and
Okay.
just be aware. Um, I said it. I said this in day one. Your launch strategy is different than your scale strategy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself a threshold of, like I often say in our mastermind, for SaaS especially, 25 customers is like that's the threshold where you should focus on paid ads at that point, right? So give yourself like a deadline. You know what? As soon as I get to 3 clients or 5 customers, I'm gonna switch as much as I can to paid ads. All roads that we're talking about is to get your foot in the door, get the ball launched, right?
Mm-hmm.
But eventually you get to a point of inbound leads. Every single day, inbound leads should be coming in. Your prospector should be filled in those inbound leads and having that set up with your closers. And all of a
Yep.
sudden, like clockwork, every single week, clients should be closing with 3 or 4 guys or gals that are just running the sales machine without you being involved. That's the promised land that we want to get to. That's the world that we want to get to. So in the beginning, get in the trenches, get your feet wet, get your sales tonality kind of mapped out, get your at bats. But that's not the long-term way to grow the business. That's just part of it. Josh said something so significant. I don't know how many of you caught this. He said stacking. He said, what matters is stacking these channels. That's the most important thing. I see often, Josh, you probably see this as well with thousands of students, like they just abandon a channel when they just get some resistance and switch over to something else, and then quarter 2 they still have one channel but it's just a different channel, and then they recycle channels and never stack any channels. Can you just share some notes on that? Because I think that's one of the biggest weaknesses of agencies. They quit too early, right before they hit to the diamond.
Yeah, I think a lot of us think in terms of a campaign versus in terms of a strategy, right? A strategy is a bunch of different tactics playing together to get the outcome, right? And so once you've got your cold outreach purring and you got the messages going out and they're making sense and you're getting responses, then you start to stack on top of that, doing the webinars and the podcasts and being live at the events and looking for joint venture opportunities. And you can start to combine the strategies. You wouldn't just do one, like as you get one, then you build the next and you build the next. And they have a synergistic approach where the cold outreach starts to work better because you're doing Facebook ads as well, right? And you want to make sure you pay attention to that as you add new things to your marketing mix.
Love that. Let's keep going.
Okay, cool. So we talked about the daily activities, right? We're doing cold outreach. I showed you how to get the list. I showed you the types of messages to send. We talked high level about the way to get those messages out there. In addition, we should be running Facebook ads, doing content on a consistent basis. Now, there's one thing I would recommend you do every single month. And I don't care if you're just getting started or if you've been doing this for quite some time. If you can do these two things every single month, you'll start to develop your expert status. You'll start to, get clients coming to you pre-positioned to buy. And that's once a month, do a webinar, right? And that's not a sales pitch webinar. I'm talking about once a month, you show up and you add value on the thing that you're helping your prospects implement. So if you're looking at the program we're talking about that we built out yesterday, and you're going to do websites, and you're going to do SEO, and you're going to do paid search, and you're going to put marketing automation in place, then you would show up and say, hey, let's talk about how to set your website up for maximum conversion. Maybe that's one of the webinar topics. And you promote it via email, you promote it via social, you show up, you hit the record button. Maybe you got one person on there, maybe you're just recording it for yourself. But doing it every month does a couple of things. It forces you to come up with a topic. It forces you to do research on that topic so that you can become more confident and more competent. It forces you to email and promote, right? As opposed to just you saying, hey, want more help, want more help. You're literally inviting them to something where you're going to educate them, right? And it also creates inbound content because every time you do one of those webinars and you record it, you can put it up on YouTube. You can put it on your blog. You can put it up on social media. You can use tools to slice it up. And it really can drive your entire content engine having one webinar every single month. So that's one piece. And then the other would be to do a podcast. And I know this sounds complex, Paulson, I promise you it's not. You literally just set up a Zoom meeting with somebody in your niche, ask them 5 questions and record it. Make it a interview-based podcast where you're interviewing the most successful people within your industry. Hey, tell me about your company. Tell me about how much revenue you do. Tell me about what you're doing to market yourself. Tell me about some of your biggest struggles this year. And if there's one opportunity, one thing you would share with a struggling person in this niche, what would it be? That is magical, magnetic, attractive content that doesn't exist probably in your niche. And it will align you with some of the best, most prolific people within the industry you would have never had access to. You can invite prospects on and say, hey, I'd like to get you on the podcast. And by doing that, you get to know them. They get to know and like and trust you. Maybe they're interested. And don't make that the approach. Don't use your podcast to sell somebody something, but maybe they're interested. Maybe they know somebody that's going to be really interested in what you do and connect you. So it can be extremely powerful. Just put a 2 in the comments if you can do those 2 things, right? Do those 2 things. Type a 2 in the comments. You're going to do one webinar every month. Force yourself to create content. And you're going to do one basic, don't overthink it, don't over-engineer it, one basic podcast every single month.
Josh,
Awesome.
can I add a quick 30-second synopsis here?
Yeah, please.
So when I started my dental agency, I had almost no clients. It was one of the most competitive, most saturated markets. I didn't even know it was that saturated. I had healthcare background, so I jumped into dental because I just didn't know any better, to be frank. But one of the things that I implemented was what you just said. How many of you remember the tool BeLive? BeLive. Back then, we would get on BeLive and just stream because you couldn't just stream regularly. So my first client was a dentist out in Louisiana, and I asked him, hey, do you mind introducing me to your dental mentor? Like, I have nothing to sell them. I just want to interview them of what they think about the dental industry today. This is like 2014. So that doctor introduced me to his professor, who was like a big publisher. Mind you, I'm so new in the industry, I don't even know who he is and how big he is. But I had him on my Facebook page. We're interviewing on BeLive, and I'm just simply asking him 5, 6 basic questions of what he thinks about new dentists, what he thinks about how to build a dental practice, what he thinks of the outlook of the platform. And then when I looked at some of the people that he's interacting with, I'm like, oh, there's another professor here. And look, literally in like 2 months, I had 10, 15 big name professors that I was just interviewing all over my socials. Now, they weren't my clients. They were just experts. And guess what happened? The average dentist that was starting out, like meaning their students, when they get on a call with me in a prospecting call, their first question is like, well, how do you know Dr. Williams from Louisiana? I'm like, well, I just got introduced by this other client that I'm working with in Louisiana. I use that client in Louisiana for my case study to land like 20, 30 plus clients, and they all came from these Be Live interviews. Mind you, I didn't have a name for a podcast. I didn't have a specific topic planned. I didn't have any emails even going out. I just simply had an environment for all these dentists to kind of get together and shoot the barrel on all the pain they had against, some of these big vendors that are happening in the industry. So I became a safe person very quickly and with authority just because I started interviewing people. So it's something that I know I've applied for myself and I know it still will work. So if you have a certain industry that you're focused on, find the biggest people in that industry, bring them on, 5 questions. Do not be salesy. Do not try to be, don't even promote any offers. Just simply type in your description, hey, want to learn what's happening in plumbing in 2025. That's it. Like keep it simple. But what happens in 6 months when you have the biggest experts in the industry talking to you? The average person will look at you as an expert. You're the North Star. It's like, well, this is not an average marketer if the biggest players are kind of engaging with him or her, right? So just wanted to share that because I know this works.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's a great illustration of how this works. And yeah, I mean, like it's just one of those power plays. You could cold call until you're blue in the face, and I recommend doing that cold outreach. But if you reach out to someone and say, "Hey, I'd like to feature you on my podcast," almost everybody says yes, right? And they'll be like, "Sure, let's do it." And now you've got a live, actual person you're having a conversation with. You're developing a relationship. You're developing affinity in the industry. You're putting out value-added content. Amazing. So I think a couple questions did come in, and I'll address here. One was, how long should the webinar be? Doesn't need to be super long. It could be 30 to 45 minutes. Could even be less, and then just open up for Q&A. My webinars tend to go about an hour, right? Usually I'm going to go deep in the topic. I got a bunch of slides. I got a bunch of information. I've been doing this for a decade, right? And so don't feel like it needs to be that long. The reality is most people don't want to sit through an hour-long webinar anyways. And so, most people are going to start to tail off after about 30 to 45 minutes. So show up, add value, answer questions. Don't feel like you need to make an offer. Like just say, hey, if you'd like some help with this, here's a link to schedule, and you'll find people scheduling in. And this does culminate over time because at the beginning, no one's going to show up, but then more and more people start to show up. And one of the cool things with webinars is you promote the webinar, and then the confirmation page, and we've got all of this built inside High Level. The confirmation page isn't add to calendar. It's, hey, thanks for registering for the SEO webinar. It's going to be awesome. If you want us to show you how to implement this in your plumbing business, schedule a time. Right? We find we get almost as many people that schedule in with us that register but don't attend the webinars. We do that people that watch the webinar and attend the process. So it's kind of got that triple threat capability of doing the webinar on a consistent basis. Let's see. Okay, cool. I'm not seeing any other questions. I saw a lot of you type 2. It's easy to say, hard to do. There's a million things you can do to market yourself. I promise you, if you just did the monthly webinar and the monthly podcast, you will be prolific in your industry. People will start to look at you as the go-to expert. You'll have content in the can. You'll start to develop some authority, which is the big thing I want you to build. And so that's monthly. And then quarterly. This is once every quarter. 2 things I want you to do. Number 1 is get out live to an industry event. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, but we know in your niche, there's gatherings happening. They're coming together for continuing education. They're coming together, for networking and masterminding. We're all digital marketers. We live in a digital world. We like to stay in our home office on the laptop, and that's a safe place. But magic happens when you get live and in person. When you're at the event, you're making the contacts, you're having conversations. And so find out where those events are happening within your industry, push your comfort zone, spend a couple of bucks, either get a table or get a booth and be present. I'll share an example of this going back to my very early days at Plumbing and HVAC SEO. We didn't have any clients. We were doing cold calling, not getting a lot of momentum. We did have the one plumbing client that we landed that was kind of like a backdoor opportunity. And I started to look like what's a Miami? Are there any Miami plumbing meetup groups or anything like that? And I found the Miami Plumbing Contractor Association, right, which meets once a month, and they get together, and it's not what you think. It's like 30 guys around a dirty table drinking beer. But I was like, hey, let me go out and check that out. And I went to the thing and I hung out, and it was awkward. No clients, no opportunities. The next month, I went again, and the president, Tom Watson from Southwest Plumbing at the time, said, hey, you know what, Josh, I appreciate you being here. You want to stand up and say a couple words? I was like, sure. I got to speak for like 5 minutes on, I think I was talking about paid search and the difference between the Google ads and the organic listings. And Tom felt badly, and nobody was interested, invited me out to have a meeting, and he became our second client within the plumbing space. And so don't feel like this has to be the big national event. Look inside your Tri-City area, and be willing to make a quick trip. Anything you want to add on industry events or conferences, Paulson?
No, I think there's so many variables to it. Like my first one, I put on a three-piece suit with the bow tie looking crazy, like I should have just had a basic t-shirt on because I it just came off so desperate. But you don't know until you get there, right? So but be in the trenches, be the action taker. And that's what I would say. Consistency will win over perfectionism in business.
Yeah.
Like so many people are really good at things, but not that many people are consistent. The consistent folks win.
Mm.
The folks with the elite strategies and campaigns and knick-knack, paddywhack ads manager stuff that is just, diamond in the rough, like that stuff is cool, but consistency wins over the long haul. So just focus on getting out there. And Josh, you said it right. A lot of keyboard warriors in the
Yeah.
world of marketing, right? The magic is when you start shaking hands in person.
No doubt. And that's where the joint venture opportunities come from. That's where the strategic relationship come from. That's where the speaking opportunities present themselves. So get live. And the other thing I want you to do every quarter is to create a client case study, right? Our objective with every client we get should be to knock it out of the park for them, right? To do such a good job that they'd be happy to speak our praises. They'd be happy to say to other people, yeah, these guys were great. They really helped me. That's how you know you're having an impact. And so make a priority that at least once a quarter, you're going to take a client, you're going to document, here's where they were when we started. Here's where they are today. Here's the strategy we've put in place. That could just be you on Loom explaining it. It could be you interviewing the client and kind of asking some questions about why they chose you, what impact you've had. But when you do one case study every single month and then you promote it, right? This becomes a marketing asset. You shift from just being somebody that's talking the talk to somebody that can back up what you're saying with proof, right? And that puts you in a completely different class, right? So I want to encourage you, make sure that you're doing that on a quarterly basis. I promise you, if you do these basic things on a daily, monthly, quarterly basis consistently, like Paulson said, you'll be able to get your 15 strategy sessions per month. Just put the 15 in, if number 15 in the chat, if you'll do these strategies, you'll take consistent action to get your 15 strategies sessions per month.
Yeah. It's important for you to also remember that a testimonial is different than a case study, right? And like your case study should present and demonstrate a before and after scenario that you were able to impact the client with.
Yeah.
Where a testimonial is like, oh, let me just share some professional nice things about Paulson. Well, that's cool too, but it's not as impactful as here's the scenario that we came in, here's what we shifted. And if you can attach that transformation to a revenue line, you can win. It's not the same if you say, well, we got 1,000 followers for this plumbing company. Well, 1,000 followers don't mean much because guess what? Most plumbers are not going back to the same houses because they've already done the work. They're not going to retain a lot of clients that easy, right? So that's not a lot of value. So think through of the before and after scenarios, the story that you're sharing in a case study, where a testimonial is really just a couple of nice things. So don't be aware of that. What we're talking about is an actual case study where you're demonstrating revenue line difference and exactly what attributed to those changes. Otherwise, you don't have a case study. you have a
Yeah.
testimonial.
100%. It's an important distinction. If you reach out to me, I do have a case study builder format for that. I don't think I included it, but I'd be glad to share it. If you just send me a personal message, I'll get that for you guys.
Awesome.
Okay. So that's what we're going to do in order to get our 15 strategy sessions per month. The next thing we have to do is we've got to land clients, right? Before we get there, though, I want to tell you about Chris
Chris,
Rodriguez.
yes,
So
she's
Chris
awesome.
Rodriguez runs an agency called GrowPro Agency, which focuses on the dojo niche. And I guess it was about 3.5, 4 years ago, she had gotten to like $30,000 a month in the dojo niche. Didn't really have a lot of strategy she was doing from a marketing perspective. And she implemented this growth system, the exact strategies we're talking about here, where she started, well, mainly she started doing the monthly webinar. She started doing the monthly podcast. She was really active in speaking in industry events and conferences, developing proven case studies within her space. Grew from 32,000. I was on a session with her yesterday, just a one-to-one, and she's at 320, about to be 350 in monthly recurring revenue, just crushing it within her space. And it's funny you said consistency and precision. That's exactly it, right? Chris and all the other examples I'm sharing, are really just to emphasize this works, but it takes massive action and it takes consistency. Chris hasn't missed a webinar in 3 years. She does her webinar every month. She syndicates it. And that's just one of the things she's doing consistently that drives her appointment funnel, keeps her pipeline full.
You wanna hear something funny real quick, Josh? So I
Yeah.
reached out to Chris two weeks ago, I want to say, and I was like, "Hey, Chris, we definitely want to bring you in as a speaker for our Dallas Mastermind." And she's like, "Paulson, absolutely not. I'm going to Josh Nelson's event in Miami, same dates." And I'm like, all right, that's very fair. He was pivotal and critical to your growth as well. So I'm like, Chris, you're a rock star. Either way, we'll connect. But yeah, Josh, you have a mastermind coming up almost at the same time from what I know. And Chris is going to be there. So, if you're in that area, definitely go to that event. She's a rock star. I believe she spoke at our summit event, a conference as
Amazing.
well.
She's an
So,
amazing
you
session on
know,
client retention. Yeah.
yeah, big rising star in the community of high level. Thanks to you, Josh. So Danny as well. Danny is one of those rising stars in my mind that's just been crushing it. But yeah, let's keep going. I don't want to stop.
Okay, cool. So we talked about how to fill the funnel. The next thing is obviously we got to get people to show up for the appointment, and we want them to show up pre-positioned to buy. And so that's where the appointment funnel comes into play. We don't want to over-engineer this, but the reality is High Level's got an amazing calendar function where somebody can pick a time and they can get reminders. But if we can add a little bit more to the reminder sequence, we can drop a couple of goodies on them in advance. We can get them more likely to show up for the appointment. Because I do find, a lot of times people schedule in and then they're not there, and you've already done the due diligence, and it's frustrating and it's disappointing. And so, I did a whole session for High Level a couple of years ago on the ultimate agency funnel and kind of the key things we want to put in place to get people to raise their hand, to schedule in, and then to convert into an opportunity. I don't want to beat a dead horse on that or kind of reiterate things that we've already covered. But the key thing I do want you to focus on is the actual appointment process, which in our world is they land on a page like this, where they're seeing a video of me. Hey, if you're ready to take your plumbing or HVAC business to the next level, love to schedule a one-to-one lead flow acceleration session with you, where we'll really show you how you can accelerate your lead flow by getting your internet marketing right. Enter some details over here on the side so that we can schedule a time. So you could either drop your calendar right there, or you could use a survey. This is one of the surveys, not a form, because we're pre-screening prospects on this survey process. We want to know if they're already spending money on marketing, if they're actually in the niche, because we get a lot of noise at this stage in the game. I like this process, and what's great is with the survey builder and High Level, if they answer they're a one-man operator or they spend less than $1,000 in marketing, I can decline the appointment. I can take them to a page that says, hey, this probably isn't a fit. Appreciate the opportunity. See you next time, right? But if they do qualify, then they're going to get to the page that says, here's the calendar. Pick a time that works for you. And this is really where the magic is, and where I want you to spend a little bit more time and energy if you look at your appointment process, especially if you're more advanced. If you're getting your first 3 clients, don't spend a lot of time here. Just use the basic that's built in, let people schedule. But, right after they've picked the time is when they're most prime, right? They've picked the time to meet with you because they've got a problem. They think you can help. that's where you want to really set the expectation. You want to say, hey, look, I'm really excited. This is going to be an amazing appointment. We're going to be prepared. So we ask you to be prepared. Please make sure you've got this on the schedule. Add the button, click the button right here to add it to your calendar. And if you could watch a couple of the examples of what we've done with other plumbing companies just like you. How many of you believe, and I want you to say yes in the comments, if somebody watched a case study prior to meeting with you of somebody like them that got amazing results, they'd be more likely to kind of be pre-positioned. Like, not like, hey, show me what you can do, but like, hey, I think you can help me. How much is this going to cost? Right? Just type yes. So that's really what we want to do with our appointment process. And this is all built in high level. So I mean, I literally run our entire agency, and the 7-figure agency members in the community take this snapshot and they plug it in, and it's a great way to get people to show up, to come pre-positioned, and you've got all of the automations you can run from emails to SMS to like Slack reminders within your internal team. We use it all, and I highly recommend you do all of that stuff. But I think there's one other challenge that a lot of people face is even if you've got that dialed in, they schedule in, but you still get a no-show. Just type no-show if you get a lot of no-shows, like, and it stresses you out. No-show, if they don't show up. I know it frustrates me. I don't take sales calls anymore, but it frustrates me when my sales team has to deal with people that no-show. So yeah, we get no-shows. One thing that we've done that has helped to almost completely eliminate no-shows is a manual task. Now, this takes a little bit more time, but it works really, really well. And so I'm going to share it with you. Here's what you want to do. Physically find that person after they've scheduled with you, you or a VA, find that person on Facebook or on LinkedIn or on Instagram and send them a connection request, right? They just scheduled and now you've sent them a connection request. They've made a connection that you're a real person, and just doing that is going to increase the probability that they show up for the appointment. Now we know, like, once they've accepted us, not everyone does, but if they do accept us, we can send them a personal message. And the personal message I would encourage you to send is just their first name. Don't send a long message. Don't send a, hey, I see you scheduled, I'm looking forward to it. Just Paulson. Because when you get a personal message from someone you just scheduled with and they send a message, Paulson, what is your expected response?
Yo.
Yeah, what's up? What do you need? What's going on? It would be rude not to respond, is the main thing, right? They're going to respond back. And now once you've had a two-way dialogue outside of the automations happening at high level, they're absolutely going to show up, right? So that's what we want is we're just going to find that person on social media, connect with them, send them a quick message. And then if you really want to put icing on the cake, you don't pre-record a video. You take out your phone and you record a simple, hey, Paulson, I see you just scheduled in. Really looking forward to meet with you tomorrow or Thursday at 3. Bam, that's it. That's your video. Now you're locked in. Right? They're going to show up. They're going to be excited. Just type show up in the comments if you can use that, and or you will use that to get people to show up. Yes, good strategy. Works extremely well. I don't think I need to cover anything here. We do it all on high level.
Yeah, just the only thing I would say is you have to be mindful also of where your industry is hanging out in, right? Like, so
Right.
not
It's not always
everybody,
Facebook. Yeah.
yeah, it's not always Facebook. Like if you're working with white collar industries like accounting, lawyers, a lot of them are more relevant on LinkedIn. If you're working with
Yep.
like marketers, designers, creative people, med spa because they're branding sensitive. Instagram is often a great place, right? So
Yes.
certain platforms work for certain industries. Just be aware of that.
100%. Great point. You know, don't just expect them on Facebook. Timing and sequencing, you know, don't just send one message. Send a confirmation, send a text message. I like to send a text message with a picture of myself. Hey, see the schedule, really looking forward to it. Some additional resources. This is kind of like, you know, if you're more advanced on this and you're like, hey, I already do all this stuff, this might be the one little thing you want to add, would be to give them some homework coming into the appointment. Have them watch a 5-minute video that helps them evaluate their current online marketing. Isn't it a must? Night before, day of, 15 minutes prior, you're going to get a really solid show up rate for your appointments. Other really important element is to put them onto a pipeline, right? This is one of the beautiful innovations inside of high level is that when someone schedules in or when someone's opted in, They're not just sitting on a spreadsheet somewhere. You can put them onto a pipeline and kind of move them through the flow. And so make sure you or your sales team or whoever's doing this is paying attention. Who's opted in, who's qualified, who's scheduled. And then again, I talked yesterday about hot lead follow-up. You can move them to hot lead follow-up. So that's the appointment process. If you do that way, people are not just going to show up. They're going to show up excited, pre-positioned to buy, and eager to have the appointment. You're going to get less no-shows. You're going to get less, I'm not that interested, and more like leaning into the process. And then, of course, we want to have a great sales process, right? Where we're going to do exactly what we covered yesterday, right? Discovery call, walk them through the consultative flow, ask for the business. And the objective we're shooting for with our landing clients process is a 30% close ratio. If you can get higher than that, more power to you. Like keep improving your sales process. But if we get 15 strategy sessions per month and we get a 30% close ratio and we're charging at least $1,500 per month, guess what? We'll be on track to build a seven-figure agency or to add an additional $1 million per year. Now, in addition to that, obviously, we've got to deliver and retain. And we're not going to spend a ton of time here, but your onboarding process will make or break your retention strategy, right? If you don't come out of the gates clean, if you're not really on top of the ball, you don't set a great expectation, you're going to have churn problems, right? So what happens in the first week, what happens in the first 30 days will make a big impact on your retention. The next is your communication rhythm. If you're charging $1,500, $2,000, $5,000 per month, automatic reporting won't cut it, right? You need to have a process where you're checking in with the client every month, you're showing them the value, you're seeing the vision for what's coming next, you're making sure they're perceiving the value of what you're doing and how you're bringing things to the table. And then eventually you got to build your account management process, right? Because again, we don't just want an agency that provides money, we want an agency that provides freedom. And one of those positions you're going to need to remove yourself from is account management. It's usually for every 30 to 45 clients, you're going to want to have a new account manager that can manage those relationships and have those monthly calls and be the QB of the relationship. And the goal with your retention strategy is 97%, right? If you've got great onboarding, you're delivering great results, you're checking in with the clients consistently, it's feasible and possible to get to 97% or beyond. So that's the growth system. We're going to get into like mapping this out and putting it onto your plan. I just wanted to walk through this because that's what we're going to reverse the plan to. Any questions or thoughts on this, Paulson?
I think we're good. If y'all don't mind in the comments, can you just share what's been your aha moment today from just learning these three pillars? Like, what's been the biggest aha moment? Or maybe just share what you're going to implement based on what you've learned from this system right here. I would love to just kind of get a temperature check of where we are. Some of you, it's the onboarding. Some of you, it's like, you know what? I didn't realize I need to have a formal system for appointment setting, you know? Some of you, it's the stacking of different channels that's bringing new leads in. Some of you is what we talked about yesterday, not having a predictable program for your agency and an offer that is consistent and not doing a bunch of custom projects that are one off, right? Like what's been your aha moment? Let me see that in the chat and that'll help us kind of go to the next part of the training here.
Love it. Jake says about to do it all. Deb says love the message of being consistent 100%. Angela says I need to create the system. Amy says the monthly podcast. Let's go. Implementing the full funnel, says Becky. Patrick, more rigor on current practices. Patio says, this is priceless, the whole thing. Love it. Amazing. Appreciate the feedback.
Okay. Awesome. Let's keep going.
Amazing. Charlie, I just want to read Charlie's. I think it is building a system in general instead of being all over the map generalist before this year. So good.
Yeah.
Great feedback, everybody. Appreciate you guys engaging. A good example of this whole process from how we land the clients to how do we deliver the results and retain the clients is Tony Ricketts from Lawnline Marketing. Tony runs an agency serving lawn care companies, which is the niche he focuses on. Great with websites, one of the smartest SEO people I've ever met in my life, doing some really innovative stuff with AI and AI content generation. But a couple years ago, he was at $20,000 and he couldn't break the $20,000 mark because he didn't have the right model. He didn't have the right marketing strategy and system, which you guys have all just learned, implemented this stuff, grew from $20,000 to over $250,000 in monthly recurring revenue. And I have no doubt he's going to get to 8 figures in the next couple of years. So another great example, somebody you can benchmark against and kind of learn from on how they've grown. All right, who's ready to put pen to paper and put this into your plan? Just type plan in the comments if you're ready to put this into an action plan for 2025, because information without implementation is useless. It literally is. I mean, it's helpful, it makes you feel smart, but it's what you implement, it's what you put into play that makes all the difference. And a goal without a plan is just a dream. And so I'm going to invite everybody to open back up your workbooks to page 31. Page 31 in the Google Doc that we shared with you guys. Scroll all the way down back through your sheet. And we're going to get to page 31. And just give me a 1 in the comments once you're there, because I want to make sure, like, now's our time to work. We've talked about the theory. We've talked about how to do it. And now we're actually going to put the plan and calendarize it. All right, Sabrina has it opened. Paulson, do you need me to zoom in, or is this?
I think this is good. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And there is a link of resources in the description for those of you that might have just jumped in and you're trying to figure out where the workbook is. If you go to gohighlevel.com/Josh Nelson resources, you'll be able to get to a Google Doc that has all the links, including the Excel sheet as well, for those of you that are looking at that too. But yeah, so page 31, big rocks, big rocks.
So big rocks. So there's going to be things that you do on a daily basis that are more like pebbles, more like sand. And then there's the big things, the big rocks that really move the needle forward from a marketing and sales perspective. And I want to start there. I want to make sure we calendarize and we block the time for those things. And so one of the main things I ask you guys to do quarterly is to be at an industry event or an industry conference. There's probably one happening every month in your niche, literally. I want you to find one. Find at least one and put that onto your schedule. Put the city that it's in, put the, the date that it is, and get that in your schedule here. I'm not going to give you a ton of time because I know not all of you are probably going to want to do this particular thing, but let's give you 30 seconds. Do a quick Google search, industry events, conferences in your niche. Should pull up a list. And this is one you're going to want to spend some additional time on. This is one you're going to want to drill down on.
It's funny that you say this, but for those folks that are not yet decided on an industry,
right,
this is where they'll have a difficulty of
Yeah.
having a planned attack. It's like, oh, well, I serve 5, 6 different industries. Well, it's hard to become an expert at 5 different industries at the same time, which is why we go to the suggestion of focusing on one industry as a stepping stone. So yeah, great invitation here that you should be thinking about. These are pros of niching down.
Right, 100%. The next thing is, and this we should all be able to do, is monthly webinar, right? We all committed. I saw all of you guys write the 2. Yeah, I'll do a webinar every single month. One of the best things you can do is time block that, right? Which is to say, I've got a specific day every month that I've blocked out that I'm going to do my webinar. And so I think there's 2 kinds of learning. There's just in case learning and there's just in time learning. Just in case learning is sitting on a training like this and hearing me say, oh, I should do webinars, I should do podcasts, just in case someday you decide you might try that thing. Just in time learning is much more powerful because I'm going to set a date and a time. Let's say I'm going to do January 30th at 2 o'clock. I'm going to do a webinar. That forces you to learn just in time. Well, how do I set up the registration process? How do I send the emails? What I'm going to do in my slides? Action always supersedes consideration. And so what I want you guys to do is actually pick a day and time in January, or better, like the once a month time that you're going to do your webinars, and block that into your schedule. Everbright is a helpful place for that, absolutely. And I listen, High Level's got snapshots for this. Use High Level, lean on the tool that you've got. We do give our members our snapshot for this, as well as all of our presentations. So that's one of the perks of being part of the 7-figure agency. But no reason you can't run this strategy directly just with the information that you have. So put in the comments for me what day and time will you do your webinar. what I found is Wednesdays and Thursdays tend to be the best for whatever reason at between 2 and 3 o'clock Eastern time, because you're going to get most time zones there. You're not going to be interfering with people's morning or night. Business people tend to work during the day. You can do after hours sometimes, but usually it's going to be like 2 to 3 is a really great sweet spot. And there's enough time to promote the webinars leading up to the month in that Wednesday or Thursday time zone. Angel says Mondays at 1 p.m. I like that. Fantastic. Paulson, it looked like you were going to say something there. So if you've got an insight, I'd love to hear it.
No, we're good. I think middle of the week works best. People don't consume content, right out of the gate on a Monday morning. They have things to do, and Friday they're probably kind of disconnected by then because they're burnt out or something's happening. So for me, my perfect day is a Wednesday or a Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday, like 4 p.m. ish, 3 p.m. ish is like really, like we do hundreds of webinars every single week, every single day.
You really do, yeah.
And Wednesday and Thursday, they hit a lot different than a Monday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great insight from someone that's doing this at massive volumes. And then we do the monthly podcast, right? Let's pick a day and a time. If you don't pick a day and a time, it's not going to get done, right? So let's pick a day and a time. When will we do these interviews? And force yourself to send an email to somebody. Hey, I'd like to interview you. I'd like just to interview you on how you've grown and scaled your whatever niche you're in. What I tend to do, for the sake of time blocking, I like Thursdays at 2 o'clock. So I'll do like the first Thursday of every month, I do a podcast interview. And the third Thursday of every month, I do a webinar, right? That way it's really simple. You've got that time block on Thursdays, 2 o'clock. And then the alternate weeks, so the second and the last Thursday, is to prep for the next webinar or prep for the next interview to send those invites. So that's just a little thing you can do to kind of make this easier on yourself.
Yeah. And there's the reverse of this as well. Like we're talking about here, hosting your own webinar, right? You can always be a guest on somebody's webinar as well. So if you're not ready to just host your own event and put a program together, jump on somebody else's and just share strategies and take that and run it against your email list. So yeah, there's that opportunity as well. I mean, kind of like what Josh is doing here with us. We asked him to jump on, but I promise you, if you're on Josh Nelson's email list, you're gonna hear about this workshop with High Level in the next 2 weeks or so, at least, right? That's just the rhythm. Everybody does. Ali Bloy, Joel Kaplan, Frank Kern, everybody that we bring on, they tend to add their events with High Level into their email experience. So then they don't have to build another event, redo the whole thing. It's just whatever activity that you have going on is something that you want to attract people with. You never know where they come from. They might be watching you for 6 months straight. You have no idea who they are, and out of the woodworks they pop up. Hey, Paulson, I know exactly how you sneeze and cough, because we've been watching you for a long time.
No doubt.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. If you've got access to industry groups, coaches, consultants, software providers, you get an email list, let's just say of 1,000 or 10,000 prospects, they are going to have a completely different list and a completely different reach. And so I think that's an advanced strategy, Paulson, but I love it when you can do a joint venture with somebody else that's almost like a power player in your industry. All right, I love the fact that you guys are putting in the day and the time that you're going to do your podcast, that you're going to do your webinar. That tells me you're working, right? We're not here just to hear us talk about it. We're here to put it on paper and to actually do it, right? And to actually get this stuff into play, because that's where the results are going to come from. So the key activities, we've got the monthly webinar, we've got the monthly podcast interview, we've got those quarterly events that we're going to try and at least exhibit at, maybe look for opportunities to speak at, participate in. If you're confident enough, at least a weekly video that you drop on your social profiles like Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. Some of you do it daily, and I think that's the gold standard. But if you can just at least do one value-added short-form video, you're gonna force yourself to create content on a consistent basis. So those are the big rocks. Kind of scrolling down from there is we've got time blocking, and I really believe that your cash flow follows your calendar. And if we look at your calendar where your time's being spent, that'll tell us, whether you're growing, whether you're getting new clients, whether you're getting the outcomes that you want. But I also know that we all get so busy talking to clients, sitting on trainings, learning new things, testing out concepts, that if we don't block time to say, this is when I'm going to do those prospecting calls, this is when I'm going to make my availability for sales calls, this is when I'm going to do training and development, it doesn't happen, right? You only just do the things that come naturally or come easy to you. And so I want you to consider, what days will you do webinars? We talked about that. What days will you record content? And for me, just as an example, I do a long block once a month. I spend 4 hours to create my long form and short form content. If you follow Seven Figure Agency on YouTube, on Instagram, I've got long videos that go out every week, and then I got these little short videos. That's from a long form block of time that I set aside to create that content. If I tried to do it every day, it would never happen. So if you're committed to do that, block the time. For some of you, though, the more specific thing is we need to prospect, right? We need to know what day are we going to be touching at least 5 prospects a day, 25 a week. That would be the bare minimum. When I worked at Reach Local as a sales rep, the way that we blocked our schedule was Tuesday was prospecting day. It was sacred. You didn't schedule any appointments. You didn't have any team meetings. Tuesday, all day, you had your prospect list and you were calling, emailing, and DMing. It's an intense day, but it schedules your entire calendar with sales calls for the rest of that week and ideally a couple of days the week after that. If you don't have any action right now, at a minimum, you need to block a day to prospect. For other people, it's that's too much, and you want to block 2 hours every day. So maybe from 10 until noon every single day is going to be your prospecting time. It works different for everybody. I wish I could prescribe like this is the only way, but I found people like Danny Barrera, they can do a whole day and they're just crushing it. But then there's someone like Alan Hillsberg, who we talked about earlier, and he was like, I'm going to prospect 3 people until somebody says yes. I'm going to keep prospecting until 3 people say yes to my value video, right? So he didn't want to do long blocks. Paulson, any thoughts on your side in terms of time blocking for prospecting specifically?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big, Josh, I know you're a fan of this as well, but I'm a big fan of 80/20 principle when it comes to fulfillment versus sales activities. In the beginning stages of your agency, as you're launching it, 80% of the time you should be focused on setting appointments, closing appointments, setting appointments, closing appointments. Nothing else matters. The other 20% of your week is what you do and spend time on fulfilling your existing customers. Even if it's just 1 or 2 or 3, it doesn't matter like revenue cures all diseases in business.
Yeah.
For you to have revenue, your calendar has to be filled with sales activity. So think of the 80/20 principle. 80% of the time should be sales, 20% of the time should be fulfillment. A lot of you have the opposite because you're thinking about quality of service, okay? And you're like, you know what? Let me make sure I deliver this extremely high white glove VIP service of fulfillment. But in reality, that's not going to move the needle too fast. What matters is if you can bring in more revenue to build up a team that can deliver that service better than you can, as quick as you can, right? So 80/20 principle is something you should look at consistently, especially in the beginning stages.
Yeah. So good. Let's see. I think I just accidentally closed out my tab, but all right. Are you guys still seeing the worksheet right now?
Yeah, we see time blocking. Yeah.
Okay. So the other question I get often as we're building this plan is usually, well, what will I do these webinars on? And so I included a little Google sheet here with topics that you guys can kind of use as a point of reference. These are the webinars that I run throughout the course of the year. And again, that one webinar, assuming it's congruent with what you have in your program every month, drives your content engine, it forces you to show up, and it can really streamline your entire process. So I'm giving that as a goodie for you guys in here to help shortcut that decision process. If you're going to do daily posts on social media, you want to think about a month of content prompts in advance. I took a screenshot here of a 1 month of content prompts just as kind of like a point of reference.
Can you zoom in real quick if you don't mind? Yeah, it's kind of hard to see there. Yeah, perfect.
So try not to make it just content, just how to get ranked on Google Maps or, how to, use automation. You've got a full personality and you've got to share that full personality to really resonate on social media. So you might do a client success story and a little bit about why you decided to get into this particular niche. Then you can actually teach, which is most natural for most of us, how to do Google Maps or how to leverage social media, some type of motivational mantra, you know, and these content prompts just help think about what you would post on a given day, on a given month.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's,
Josh, I have a question for you on this.
yeah.
Just a side note question. Um, w- are you like I can, but are you able to kind of see through when somebody posts a bunch of AI stuff and it's AI content? It's like kind of generic information often. Like, do you feel like we can see through that? And if so, the
Yeah.
clients can probably see through it. Like, what do you? I love AI, but there
Yeah.
is like a human connection we're missing with it. It's like
Yeah.
you're hiding behind the scenes and throwing AI in the front. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because a lot of people love throwing that out there, and I want to address it because I feel like a lot of people are missing the boat on it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, AI is great. Use AI to help you come up with content ideas. Use it. But if you're just copying and pasting what AI, like whether it's Claude or ChatGPT, on your social profiles, it's going to turn to white noise, right? And you will lose the respect of your audience. They're going to be like, oh, wow, look at all the cool stuff they're posting. They're going to be like, all right, completely disengage. So what I would suggest is use AI to help you come up with prompts. Video is going to resonate differently than text anyways. But when you do use text, try and make it in your natural voice, right? Because it is going to become more and more transparent that that's AI cloned information. Yeah, Gene says just pick up the camera and talk is the best way to leverage social media. Yeah. So these content prompts are ideally you talking to the camera, posting on social media. Don't go long. With social media, people are looking at 30 seconds to a minute and a half. Longer than that, you're gonna lose them.
All right, let's keep going.
Great point, Paulson. Okay, so we talked about the daily activities. We talked about the big rocks, the things we want to get done. You also want to think about your learning and development. And so when are you gonna go and train yourself and improve your skills? And I think I updated the sheet here for the SaaSpreneur Mastermind, which is going to be the 7th and the 8th. If you're at that level, like I can tell you, before we started using high level really aggressively, we were at the SaaSpreneur and we spent the whole 2 days going deep on how the technology works and how to implement it in our agency and how to set up our funnels and how to position ourselves. And so if you're new to this, that's probably the best place to really go deep to understand the platform and put it into play. Anything you want to say about that or the Level Up Summit and kind of why they want to block that in their schedule?
Yeah, I think one observation that Chase and I always talk about is people that show, and I'm not implying this will happen with you, but people that show up to the intimate, smaller masterminds tend to walk on stages at the Level Up Summit. It's a pattern we see.
Mm.
The students that are in the front of that classroom at the mastermind somehow become gold award winners, platinum award winners, diamond award winners. And I don't think it's the content we're teaching or because we're, elite at certain things or anything. I think they're surrounding themselves with like-minded individuals that helps them propel further and further and kind of create accountability and your community as well. I mean, I've been part of your community for years and others that I know have. You just surround yourself with the right people, and proximity has a lot of power. And that's why events matter. It's not about one event that's branded this way or another, but it's the people you meet there and what happens to you after the event. You hear about each other's stories. You talk about your kids. You talk about your marriages. You talk about your college life. You just connect with humans, and you're like, you know what? How many clients did you land this week, Josh? Oh man, you did 25, 30 clients this week. How is that even possible? Let me implement some of your strategies. But it starts with proximity, and that's why events are so important.
100%, right? The best investment you can make is in yourself and your personal development. And the content you guys do every single week here at High Level is mind blowing. It's just amazing that the value that you guys pour into your user base. And you're going to learn so much in workshops like this, but the magic happens when you're live and in person, right? It's just immersive. And it's like he said, it's the relationship you meet with the people at the table. It's the personal accountability of getting out from behind your desk and getting live and in person. And so I really encourage you to block these two events onto your
Yeah.
schedule.
And
They
you have
will.
your event, you have your event in February as well, right?
That's our Titans event. So that's for the
Okay.
agencies that
Okay.
are eight figures or on their pace for
Okay.
eight figures. We
Yeah.
do have our member intensives where we get together in March, July, and October.
Yeah.
They made sure they didn't conflict with the dates of
Yeah.
anything with high level. And that's obviously available as something that if anybody wants additional support, would love the
Yeah.
opportunity to chat with you about that. But I think the purpose of this point in the plan is we got a marketing plan, but we also need a learning and development plan. Make sure you block that time into your schedule. And so think about like what are the events you want to make sure you're at? What skills do you need to make sure you develop? What courses and trainings do you want to invest in to get better at SEO or get better at pay-per-click or get better at leadership? And block those dates in your schedule now. Block them in advance. And don't forget about your personal life. I think as entrepreneurs, we start to go just like it's all about the business. It's all about growth. It's all about landing clients. It's all about serving the clients. But the reality is we run these businesses to serve our life, right? So that ideally we can live the life we want, to spend the time with family, to be there for our friends, to be there for our kids. And so if you're not intentional about what family trips or what personal trips you're going to take, where you're going to go, they're not going to happen. And if that happens long enough, you're going to burn out and your business is going to suffer because of it. I find that when I take time at the beginning of the year to set those travels, that gives me the juice that I need to work hard when I'm not traveling, when I'm not taking the fun adventures.
Absolutely. I've met so many quote unquote successful entrepreneurs with an empty house.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll let you decide as you're hearing that how you want to take it. But I've met so many successful, financially wealthy entrepreneurs with an empty house. Not a cool scenario. So think through on all these things. There's a lot to it.
Yeah. Other important dates would be, family events, birthdays, hobbies. Just block that stuff in the calendar. Important that you block it into your calendar. And so, for the sake of time, we're not going to, do this, but I would really encourage you after we wrap up today, give yourself an hour, 2 hours. Really put this into your Google Calendar. Pick those dates, pick those times. Time block the big things that you really want to get done. And I wanted to make sure you guys have a concise action plan. We talked about a lot of different things. We talked about a lot of different strategies, but foundationally, we've got a checklist here of the key things you need to make sure you put in place, what advertising strategies you want to run, and then the key things you want to be doing on a daily and weekly basis and monthly on a very, very consistent basis. And then the big blocks here being like, what are you going to do with cold outreach? What webinars are you going to run? What industry events are you going to engage in? What advertising and marketing will you do? For some of us, we've got some money to spend on Google ads and on Facebook ads. What positioning assets will you develop this year? If you're in year 2 or year 3, now might be the time to publish that book. Now might be the time to do something that's going to elevate your status in the industry. And so I'd love for you in the comments, like what's one key strategy that you'll implement from what we covered here in 2025? Let us know in the chat. And Paulson, I'll pop to you while they're coming and putting this into their comments.
Yeah, I mean, these are amazing structure that you're building for yourself as you go into 2025. Um, some of you may consider stuff like, hey, I want to get certified in high level because
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be a fulfillment house, or I want to showcase that as part of my marketing. Hey, we as an agency, we're certified on high level. Like it's becoming a common name, so you might as well lean into it. Some of you, it's like sponsorship. You may want to sponsor an industry related event. Some of you want to sponsor a speaker that's speaking on behalf of you, showcasing your agency as a case study. Like there are multiple ways to skin the cat, but the key is to have a certain plan. The key is to have a set agenda to what you're going to implement. Otherwise, every Monday you're gonna wake up and you're like, all right, let me work on agency stuff, and pretty soon it's like 4 p.m. and everybody's coming home, and you're like, days are just flying by, and you look up a couple of months later, it's the same three clients over and over in a, in a wheel, fulfillment wheel, and you're like, I can't really move the needle. But either way, hopefully you're getting a lot of golden nuggets out of the sessions. These last 3 days has been really impactful, from the feedback that we're getting everywhere so far.
So good. Awesome, guys. So we've worked through this plan. If you could spend as much or as little time as you want, right? But the plan is there to be fleshed out, to be ironed out, to be put into place. We covered a lot of ground over the last 3 days, right? We talked about goals and targets. We put that into the sales retention tracking sheet. We broke it down by month. We broke it down by quarter. And we gave you the tracking mechanism, what I think is the most important thing. Type tracking in comments if you'll track yourself, if you'll hold yourself accountable. What you measure gets done, right? And now you've got the mechanism to do that. We audited the business model. We showed you the seven-figure model that's really worked well for us and the hundreds of agencies that have gone to seven figures. And then we build the marketing plan, right? The things you want to be doing daily, the things you want to be doing monthly, and the things you want to be doing quarterly. That's what we covered. You've got all the raw materials to go out and hit the ground running. I want to anchor this in. I want to bring it back down. We kind of went, very deep into some specifics. I want to bring you back to where you are right now. And so on page 40 in the workbook, we've all set some big goals. We've set some big dreams. I just want you guys real quick on the far left column here. What's the current reality? Bring you back down to earth so that you can get to where you want to go to by the end of the year. In your workbook there, reality is this. Type it in. And when I say the reality, I'm talking about where's the agency today? How many clients? How much recurring revenue? Could be I've got 0. Could be I've got a dozen. Could be I've got whatever. What's the current reality? Give you like 10 seconds. Sorry, I got the wrong page. Hold on, guys. Let me pull this back up. You're right. That's page 40 in your workbooks. Or 37, hold on. You might not have the latest version. Find this, it's in your workbook.
Yeah, I think it's towards the latter half of it.
And this is going to be a thought exercise as much as anything else. Starting at 0, some of us, to the result, right? Like we're right now at the beginning, the precipice of 2025. You've got 12 months, right? Massive things can happen over the next 12 months. We put this on the sales sheet, but where's we're going? How many clients? How much recurring revenue? What's the goal? What's the outcome? Let's make sure we've got this clear and concise. In the far right column, put that in. And if you feel so bold, put it into the comments. Call your shot again. How many clients? How much recurring revenue? Where will you be by the end of the year? Charles, love it. 5 clients. Getting to focus on the niche. Gary, the 68. Awesome. Plug in with me, guys. This is where the rubber meets the road, right? We're gonna make sure we got this all dialed in. Clearer you are, the better you can bring it to reality. Okay, cool. So we've got where we are. We know where we want to go. And it's always fun at the beginning of the year to set big goals, to set big targets, to get excited. I don't know about you, for the last decade, you kind of sit down and you set New Year's resolutions. I want to lose a certain amount of weight. I want to save a certain amount of money. But sometimes, month in, 2 months in, 3 months in, we lose the juice. We lose the steam. We lose the accountability. And so I want you to get really clear right now, what are those roadblocks? What's going to prevent you from getting to that outcome? Because that's what's important, right? Recognize right now, is it that you can't get the appointments? Is it that you're not following through? Is it that you don't have the skills that you need? Get really clear on the roadblocks so that you can intentionally figure out your path, figure out your way around those roadblocks, because they are coming, right? There's that visual, the day in the life of the agency is, right now I feel excited, but then tomorrow, I'm stressed out. I don't think it's working. Oh, I've lost my mind. Yeah, I've got this all figured out. That's the reality of your agency, right? That's the reality of the day in the life. Charles says, too many shiny objects. Bad sleep, says Skylar. Get really clear on what that is for you, because I want to make sure that we wrap up with clarity on what it takes to achieve your goals, right? Clarity on what it takes to bring that current situation to where you want it to go. Number one, we got to know what we want, right? And I think we're all clear. We know whatever that number is, that's where we want to go. Number two is we got to get clear and passionate about why we want it, right? We got to amp the attention, amp the focus, amp the commitment to a 10 out of 10. And I want to ask you guys again, how committed are you to bringing that reality into fruition on a scale from 1 to 10? 1 being not committed at all, 10 being I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to push down the mountain. I'm going to take daily action. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to make it happen. Charlie's at 10. I want to see all 10s right now. I want you guys to tell me and commit to yourself that you're going to do whatever it takes, because setting a goal without taking massive action consistently, it doesn't happen, right? So commit to yourself. All right, I see a lot of 10s. That's what I like to see. Yasmin at 10 for 2025. 11 says, Tonya, amazing. So we got to take massive action, right? Today we learned. The last 3 days we planned. We've got a great foundation. We know that the knowledge is here, but the difference is going to be the implementation, the execution, what you actually put into play in the real world. And so now we've got to go out and we got to take massive action. And you're going to try things that aren't going to work. You're going to hit roadblocks. You're going to hit obstacles. But the agencies that prevail, the agencies that hit the goals, the agencies that exceed the goals are going to take the action and they're going to get feedback. Right? You're going to recognize, you know what, this didn't work for me. This isn't working the way I've set this up. This message that I'm sending with my cold outreach isn't quite dialed in. And you've got to innovate. You've got to solve. You've got to go out and get answers. Right? And that's where leaning into the high-level community is going to be mission critical for you. Right? You've got an amazing support mechanism with Paulson and this community. Go get support. Go plug into the people that have done what you're looking to do, that have solved the problems that you're looking to solve for, and keep taking action until you get the outcome. So I just want you to say, we'll kind of wrap up with this, no quit. If you're committed that you're just going to keep taking action, you're going to keep pressing forward until you hit the goal or more. No quit in the comments. Awesome. Well, Paulson, that was what I wanted to cover. I think we've got the plan. We've got the commitment. Any questions or anything else you want to cover before we wrap up, Paulson?
I think we're good, man. I don't have much of anything else to add. That was a great session. We covered a lot of ground over the last 3 days, so I'm so grateful for you to say yes and came in and knocked it out of the park. Would you guys and gals like for us to do a Q&A, or do you want to just go ahead and get to getting some things done for yourself for the day? If you want us to do a Q&A, we can spend maybe next 15 minutes doing a quick Q&A, and I can read out questions. And while we have Josh here, let me know if you have any burning questions that you're like, you know what, I need some clarity here. Angel says yes, Gina says yes. Okay, put down your questions, and we'll just rapid fire together. Let me just pull up my mobile phone here. It's much easier. Comments populate a lot faster on mobile. I don't know why. Okay. Okay. First question I'm seeing is, do you guys use DocuSigns?
You should use the high-level signature document. So like right inside of high-level documents, you can attach a PDF and then have the person sign off. That's going to be the cleanest. And you don't have to pay for another software.
Awesome. What about car dealership industry, and what would be a good starter product?
Car dealership industry, especially new cars, is pretty tough. It's pretty, like, they've got well-entrenched systems already. I do know a couple of people that have broken through, but they had a very extensive background. I think if you're going to do something in car, it would probably need to be, used cars or exotic cars, not the Ford, Mercedes dealerships. That's my opinion. I don't know if you have another opinion on that, Paulson.
Yeah, no, I don't have any opinions. My second agency was in automotive, but what we focused on was lift kits. So like in Texas, A lot of guys and gals will save up, huge tickets to lift up their trucks, and that's all we focused on. So that was my angle in automotive, not dealerships. Dealerships are very complicated. They're a big sales machine, a lot of logistics. So I don't think that's something I would recommend someone starting out. Let's see. John says this is interesting. John says, please tell me how on earth you do fulfillment with only 20% of your time. I'm using 110% of my time all on fulfillment.
So I think the answer would be like you should like eventually you shouldn't be involved in the fulfillment, right? If you're running the business, you need to price yourself accordingly so that you can pay to have the fulfillment either done by team member, done by a white label provider, or done by somebody else, because we're not here to give ourselves a job, right? Land a client, do the work, you've given yourself a job. You're a contractor versus a business. You're positioning the company, you're putting the systems in place, and other people are doing the work. I understand at the beginning, you're going to have to work hard, right? Maybe you're doing some of that work. Make sure your next client, you price a little bit higher so that you can't afford to have it done and not get sucked in, because that's going to prevent you from ever being able to grow, because you can't continue to sell, you can't continue to position, because you're just doing the work for the handful of clients that you have.
Love that. We're just rapid firing here, so put down as many questions that you have. We'll get to it as quick as we can. We've got about 11 minutes left. So, okay, what do you think about SMS blasts over cold call when they reply?
I think you got to pay attention to compliance with SMS blasts.
Yep.
Paulson, you could probably speak to that better than me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not legal for you to just blast text messages in most US cities. Look into that. You want to lead with the value. We're not recommending that you spam your industry. You're not going to look good regardless, even if you had success. So I would lean towards leading with value. And the way you do that is by providing resources. What kind of resources? Well, Josh talked about 10, 15 different things, different topics, and then you start building your audience. How do you build audience? Get in front of people at scale, right? Speaking, webinars, podcasts, all these are different ways to do all three of those things. Okay, cool. What do you guys target as simple product to push and focus on an entry level for construction contractors this year? So Danny comes to my mind, but Josh, you have any ideas of offers on construction?
Yeah, I mean, I think most construction companies are struggling with the way that they follow up with their leads. So an easy thing to do would be to call their office or submit a form and mystery shop and just be like, I called and I didn't get a live answer. I submitted this form and it's been 2 days. I could talk to you about how you generate more leads and more sales, but let's solve that, make you some money, and then we'll talk about the other things we could do. If you're looking for a foot in the door, mystery shop, show them the problem, solve the problem, and you should be off to the races.
Yeah, someone's asking, what has been the one thing in your offer that has landed best with prospects? I mean, that's a
Um,
fully loaded question. It
yeah,
depends on the prospect.
yeah. I think every prospect has got a different problem challenge that they're looking to solve for. For us is usually recognize anybody you're going to deal with has worked with other agencies, and not one. They've used 5, 6 companies over the years. So you have to come to the market with a proprietary approach. And it's like something like, hey, look, we've recognized that it's not just about getting you ranked, but it's getting you ranked and making sure the website can convert. And that when you get the converted lead, that you can convert the lead to a sale. Like that message right now is really resonating because it's different than a lot of the other agencies that are selling to our niche. And so figure out like what you can do that would plus one what they've tried in the past. Because if you're telling them the same thing that they tried, their blinders are on. They're not interested in hearing that.
Yeah. Josh, some of us love being on camera, some don't. Any alternatives to content?
Yeah, I think,
Well, pick up the phone and dial or walk in, right?
yeah, writing can work. Showing up live can work. I think ultimately personality brands and authenticity are winning in today's market. The agencies I know going to 7 figures and multiple 7 figures are on stages and they're on video and they're on webinars. And so it might be like you need to expand your comfort zone. A great example of this is Sean McMean, who I just talked with yesterday. Didn't like being on camera, didn't like to speak. Had his agency at like $20,000 in monthly recurring revenue, but he's expanded as a human being. where now he does videos, he does podcasts. He spoke on stage at the big industry conference in damage restoration and landed 30 clients in a single event. And now he's doing over $220,000 a monthly recurring revenue. I would encourage you, expand your comfort zone rather than just trying to shrink to something that would be comfortable in your immediate situation.
I love that. Anjali is asking, what tools do I use to actually need tools to use or white label? I personally think everything you would need to fulfill a client is inside of High Level. I might be a little biased, but Josh, I mean, High Level is a huge operational tool for you guys as well.
Oh, yeah. I missed the portion of the question. It's my audio cut out, but I think the
Yeah,
question was,
what tools do I use to do the actual marketing for clients? So I'm thinking they're asking from a fulfillment standpoint. I
yeah.
understand GHL is a CRM, but need tools to use or white label.
Yeah, so there's a whole white label community that you can plug into inside High Level. To the extent that you can keep most of your fulfillment in one ecosystem, that makes scaling, it makes delivery so much easier. So I would suggest starting there and then seeing within your program what else you might need to layer on.
Yeah. Amy's asking, is there a contract template that we can edit and use, or any resources that you would recommend for contracts?
If you send me a personal message, I'll give you the template that we use. Be happy to share that.
Awesome. What's the best video out there that describes everything High Level can do or be used for? I would say start with the YouTube channel. We have a help doc as well. Help desk doc or help.gohighlevel.com. It's a bunch of white papers and everything. So I would say start there. Gene says, how do you structure your day to get to what we learned today moving forward? So like, what does your week look like? Maybe Monday through Friday, real quick.
Yeah, and it's gonna change obviously as you've got a team and as you've got other things going on. You time block for yourself. Here's when I'm going to do my prospecting. Here's when I'm going to do my webinars. Here's when I'm going to do my training and development. I can't answer that because it's gonna be different for everybody. Because my schedule is not going to be anywhere near what I would suggest you kind of plug into your schedule.
Yeah, I think the key is to start somewhere, and if you feel pressure points, you can pivot and make changes as you go. But it's better to just load your calendar up with a ton of different things and then prime it as you go and see different comfortability. Let's see. What's a simple overview of onboarding process for new agencies?
Yeah, I've got a lot of resources on this, but usually when they sign up, you want to try and schedule a launch call ASAP. Ideally, right at the moment they said yes. You want to drop a thank you gift in the mail because that's unexpected. And usually we use Sherry Berries or something like that, a gift basket. And then use a form that is going to help collect whatever details you need. Like in our world, we're getting usernames and passwords and USPs, but don't lean on the form exclusively, right? Schedule a launch call, block an hour to an hour and a half, and get everything you need from the client on Zoom. Has been the cleanest way to really launch an effective client relationship.
Awesome, Josh. So I see a few more questions coming in there as they're trickling in. We'll take some time to go back and address it as we get a chance to. Josh, why don't you close this out, man? What are some final words that you may have, for the brand new entrepreneur that's starting out, and also speak to the seasoned veterans, that are crushing it and they're trying to figure out what the next level looks like.
Yeah, I would say kudos to you for plugging into this point in the process, right? Like you've committed hours of your time, like learning, getting the model, hopefully doing the work, building the plan. Most people don't do that. And so what I want you to do is continue that commitment to take action, to plug in, to get things done. You've set the goal. There's power in that process. You've set the intention, you've written it down, you've built the plan. I would suggest spend a little bit more time getting really clear on what you're going to implement, what you're going to execute. The individual that's asking about how do I schedule my day, that's the kind of thinking I want you to do. Go figure out like what time are you going to block to get this stuff done, and then just recognize it's going to be harder than you think, right? It's going to be harder than you're expecting. Expect obstacles, expect things not to work the way that you want, and commit a 10x effort, right? Work 10 times harder than you think it's going to take, and you're going to be more likely to get where you're looking to go.
I love that, Josh. Can you also share some notes about your program? I know a ton of people are, just kind of curious of what your program looks like. If you don't mind just sharing some notes, I think that'll also be helpful.
Absolutely. So, seven figure agency, it kind of has two components. We've got our on ramp training, which is if you're an agency trying to get to your first $10,000 in monthly recurring revenue, it's just a specific training to help you dial that part of the strategy in. If you're over $10,000 in monthly recurring, you're looking to get to seven figures, multiple seven figures. We've got our coaching and mentorship program. Best place to learn more if you're interested in working with me more closely or plugging into our community would be to go to sevenfigureagency.com/schedule. We'll schedule a time, kind of learn where you're at in your agency and see how we can help you, support you, get you to the next level faster.
Yeah, and when you do a lot of those events in person as well, high level as a brand, we've came out there, sponsor some of those, and we've been
Yeah,
part of it as well. I
really
think
appreciate it.
Sean Robin and Varun, those guys have came there and spoke on stages as well. But either way, thank you everyone for watching your 2025 Agency Growth Plan event that we had for the last 3 days with Josh Nelson. Josh, I just want to say a personal thank you to you. I know our scheduling was, incredibly busy, and you have a lot of things that are happening. So it was so important for us to get this event going and help people map out the whole year as they're starting out a new chapter, new 2025. So thank you to you and your team.
Thank you, Paulson. I really appreciate you being on here with me, and it's been a blast.
All right. Bye for now, everybody. You can catch your replays on YouTube and all the different social channels. And in case if you don't have high level just yet, jump on a trial, be part of the family. Maybe that's a big action step you take as part of the first step. So we invite you. We have tons of free trainings like this every single day that we do in our community with tons of experts who are all worthy. So I appreciate you.